Welcome back to the Coaching Unscripted Podcast. I'm your host, Trey Belcher. With me, as always, is the finest tag team partner I could ever imagine, Corey Smallwood. How's it going, Corey?
What's up, Trey? How are you?
Oh, I'm good. We're having a great time already, and we haven't even gotten started yet. And with us today is Dr. Jena Gatses, a powerhouse in the world of human performance, recovery, and holistic health. She has worked with elite athletes across the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, UFC, NHL, and she made history as the first female head coach and physical therapist in NASCAR. As the founder of Scientific Fitness, she helps her clients, from pro athletes to CEOs, optimize their health, prevent injury, and perform at their peak. Dr. Gatses is a respected speaker and educator, featured on platforms like NBC Sports, Fox Sports, and various national publications. She is also the host of the Enhancing the Human podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jena Gatses, welcome in.
Thank you, Trey. Thank you guys for having me. Thanks for that introduction.
That was great, right?
Right? Very nice.
I've been working on it.
With AI now, you can do anything. It's crazy.
Amen. So
literally,
you're right. And it is very helpful. And
it is.
Then put a little spin on it and maybe a little good old Virginia charm. You know, when we were talking before you came on, I'm from Danville, which is dead center of the state down in South. And then 1 hour north of me is Lynchburg. So you're in LA now, but you went to grad school in Lynchburg to show how small this world is. And you take the things you learn. You're in LA now. You're helping with various athletes, celebrities, you name it. You're killing it out there. Take us through your pathway to get there.
I feel like it's just like a bunch of punches in the face, or, falling out of a tree and hitting all the branches on the way down. But no, I'm just kidding. It's been a ride, but it's been amazing because I use every opportunity in my life to learn and educate myself on different aspects of living a better, more elite, more efficient life. I'm not accepting baseline, not accepting that we're going to be injured the rest of our lives, or, it's just aging. Because it's not. I look at the scientific research. No one will research more than me. I love research, and I love looking at the big picture of things, but also where things came from, who's paying who, and where the profits are, and how we're really manipulated as a society to consume and just get away from ourselves as far as understanding that we can help our bodies. So my whole life, when I was in school, I realized a lot of the regulations are based on, FDA regulations are based on profits. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And I just remember thinking what? We're supposed to be learning this and do no harm. And that shouldn't be our number one goal. Otherwise you're in the wrong profession. And, we work for the people. So it's important to recognize that regulations are important for our health. And that's what the number one goal should be behind them. I just started gathering information over the years. I was obsessed with learning. I've always learned so much. That's why I picked that school in Lynchburg. They had a 24-hour cadaver lab, I wanted to learn my craft, the ins and outs. I've shadowed and mentored under so many different people, things I didn't want to see. Going through grad school, I was working with pro athletes before I went to grad school. And so during grad school, I did things like the ICU, the burn unit, skilled nursing facility, working at an Alzheimer's ward with, wound care and flesh-eating bacteria. And it's been a whirlwind of different things. But when you expose yourself to everything, you understand and you're not fearful. And I've really uncovered ways to help people's injuries and then take people from, a debilitated state to an elite level where some of my people are like, I fell down the stairs and I'm fine. Or like my one bigwig from Sony, he does professional mountain biking, and like his coaches are professional mountain bikers. And they're like, the way he falls and he just gets right back up and he's like, I'm fine, guys. And to the point where his surgeon, who's the surgeon for the LA Kings, he broke his collarbone. So obviously he had to have a surgery. And, the surgeon afterwards was like, he plated the bone together, the clavicle completely broke in half. But the surgeon was like, what do you do for workouts? He's like, the bone normally moves and stabs the pec or tears the lung. And he's like, yours just stayed in place. It broke completely in half, but the muscles just held it there. So he's like, what? Like he saw from the inside. Like I was so proud. And so, it's crazy what we can do. And there's a lot of things that we're told are impossible, but if you look at the physiology and you look at neuroplasticity, you can create anything if you put energy towards it. So, I've really started harnessing that. And as long as the motivation had do no harm as the number one goal, I push the limits with how I can help people. And I've even had a gentleman before grad school who was paralyzed for 10 years, who's no longer paralyzed. Like he had complete foot drop bilaterally and he had to have a wheelchair. And I was like, we can't mess it up anymore. And he was like, that's so true. And he's like, you're the first person to make me feel like a human being, because everyone is just like, they don't want to, insult him or do anything wrong. And, it's just remembering that people are at the main heart of everything we do in this industry. So it's just so important, out of everything I learned, it comes down to people and to your motivations and just doing things with integrity. So it's been a journey, but it's been really cool to, learn how to help myself, but then also harness that in other coaches and help people that are stuck or, they're in relationships where people are taking and taking and taking from them and they don't know how to do things otherwise because they're givers. So instead of just giving to a black hole, learning how to set boundaries with people in order to live your best life so that you can help other people. There's so many different avenues of education that I've gone on, but the psychological with the physical, myself doing different things, bodybuilding, jiu-jitsu, boxing, all of that kind of stuff, and then bringing it into what I'm seeing with my patients and just never letting lack of motivation or just people putting limits on things, blocks, I call them, get in the way of what people can possibly do with their lives.
Tell us, Jenna, how did you get into NASCAR? Because that is a very, very male-dominated sport. So the whole industry, it's incredibly male-dominated. You're the first female head coach, physical therapist to break into that. How did you do that? Were you already a NASCAR fan? Was this something that you...
I mean, like I've seen it once or twice. Motocross, I've watched more than I had NASCAR, but to me, it's just what is the skeleton and what is the human body doing within that skill. So like I can condition anyone to do anything in any situation. So if, I just look at it like that, what forces are they going through? So I had a reputation from before grad school that I can fix anything. People are all like, oh, you have an injury? Like I can have, this girl could fix it. So, they heard about that and I knew someone that knew the athletic director and he was like, why don't you come to a race? And this was when I was still in grad school and Denny Hamlin loved me and they're like, we got to have her on. So I do a combination of getting mobility, but then training and conditioning someone to take over that mobility so that they don't keep reverting back. And they also don't keep needing me. I need you to not be by me. Go. I want to set you free. So they just loved all of that. And it was a race weekend. I was there and they were like, we want you right now. And I was like, if I'm that good, you can wait till I'm done with school. So they wanted me to quit school and I said no. And it was my first job outside of school. But it was 6 NASCAR teams. So Joe Gibbs Racing, 6 NASCAR teams and 3 motocross guys. Pretty nuts.
So was that right out of undergrad? Did you go straight to, or was there a gap of time in between and you were a little older when you went back to grad school? How was that?
So I did exercise science and then I took a couple of years off. I was a personal trainer, but I also worked at a physical therapy clinic as a tech. So I always did more than one thing at a time. I was also in massage school on the weekends. I am extreme with things. I like to, I dive deep when I dive. So I was doing massage school too, but the physical therapy clinic would discharge the patients to my gym. So I always worked with the patient population that was injured or something, where I had to be careful of their limitations and, just keep that in mind always. So I love that kind of stuff. And so I just have learned to always research things and what other things impact. So I took a couple of years off in between undergrad and grad school. And then, so I was grad school for 3.5 years. And then it was 2014, I was done and I went right into NASCAR. Yeah, it was pretty back to back always.
Yeah, and that's the thing that people who are unfamiliar with NASCAR, they see the driver, and obviously so, the driver is the main character of that sport, but the physicality that is required, not just from the driver, but from the pit crew, how heavy that jack is. And they are athletes. I mean, a lot of them are former NFL guys or college, D1 athletes, and they get banged up.
And it's the longest season in pro sports. So you think about the conditions relationship wise, we're flying every weekend. We had our own private planes. So every weekend's a different race. So it's a lot on their bodies. Plus they're in the shop a lot of the guys that were the athletes, they were also shop guys. So, some are ex-NFL and then some are country boys that also need to support their families. So they're, it was so crazy how many variables they dealt with. And then also how, a tenth of a second made such a deal. So it's hit or miss. Plus, just the amount, I look at things as far as injury risk and I analyze everything that's going on. A car would hit a lug nut and it would shoot out into the crowd. And, some of my guys would shatter an eye socket, driving them to the hospital mid-race. There's so many things. Guys would get lit on fire. But like you said, everything with, slamming down from the wall, and then the gas can's 100 pounds, the jack, cars could fall on top of you. Also, other cars coming in, these guys are trying to win. They might clip one of the guys. So we dealt with so many different variables. So I did as much as I can, or as much as I could, to where I was controlling as many variables as possible. So, we had them in compression. I rebuilt their entire recovery facility. So we did, an entire physical therapy performance area with contrast baths and just having every modality that could potentially help their physiology improve so that they can, help us win. And we won a lot.
A lot.
It was a lot of fun. And
it's funny when we were talking before we came on. So one of my best friends, Peyton Sellers, has been in NASCAR for 25, we're telling our ages here, 30 years. and his dad was a crew member on one of the old Bush teams. And one of my other best friends, Colby, his grandpa was on the crew for the Wood Brothers back in the day with David Pearson, going back to the 70s. And, and these guys were not high-level athletes, but it's that constant push for that last tenth of a second. It's always pushing the boundaries, and that's what led them to get into the D1 athletes and the ex-football players and all those guys. So yeah, I guess it's a natural progression. It makes sense that they would go out on the cutting edge and find you who can fix people. And no matter how bad or how twisted or how messed up, you go get the best so that you can be on the cutting edge and be at the highest level and win all those races. So exactly. It's funny, being in Virginia. So I've got Martinsville Speedway is 30 minutes west of me, and South Boston Speedway, which is one of the most famous old small tracks, is 30 minutes east of me. And being in that area and knowing what it was, and then seeing on the other side with you on what it became and how fitness and recovery and all the high level modalities that we all see now, how it progressed is a pretty wild thing. It
really is, though. And I feel like it's still in the beginning phases because it's still, it's not understood. Even now when I explore all these different avenues, I'm, getting ozone shoved into my jugular vein. I'm called to different things and I explore them, and I won't promote things until I do it myself. So it's important for me to go out and try and see how it impacts my world first. But it's not really understood because, seeing what I could do with people, sometimes people are specialists with injuries and sometimes people are specialists with performance. Well, I used to not be in shape and I used to have back pain. I remember when I was young, I just thought running and like eating tuna, as a girl, I'm like, oh, I got to be skinny. And so, I didn't have any muscle. And so I trained myself out of that, and seeing where like I eat so much now and it's so nice. And like, you got Adam Sandler telling everyone, punch her in the stomach. Like my abs are so strong and it's just a default where it just stays like that, because once you go from an injured state and you start working on coordination and motor control efficiency, it's unbelievable where you can take your baseline. So I tell everyone, we're not even using a fraction. 15% is what we're using of our potential capacity of what we could do in our lives as far as every system in the body. But, if I'm starting with an injury, just like I did with myself, I'm taking that person from, okay, we're going to fix this injury, but now you're going to get the body so conditioned to understand how to impact load and transfer load and impact forces correctly the way we were designed to transfer load. And then that's going to make you resilient in life. Everyone's like, oh, I foam roll every day. Why? Like there's something wrong. You should not have to keep foam rolling. Like you're lacking mobility because there's an imbalance in your coordination. Something's going on and you're compensating. You're not efficient. You don't default tight. So you fix the problem, that opens the musculature, it opens the vein, it opens the lymphatic system. So, you get sick, you can get rid of that cold quicker. So it's unbelievable to see where people used to be. We were talking before we came on about, my patient that she would get up and look at her daughter and like twist her neck and she couldn't move for like 2 weeks. And I had to convince her, because I work with so many egos. I'm like, the exercises, I can't just work on you for the rest of your life. Like you can't even turn your head without your body collapsing. Like, I'm like, you get to the point. I'm like, I want to work on you because it's like a luxury, not because you need it to survive. So, she went from that to, she fell down the stairs. She was like, I was holding all these bowls and there's a really steep staircase in their house, and she fell down. The bowls went everywhere, and she's walking around and she like couldn't believe it and like pacing back and forth, so, and just like the guy, the mountain biker, one of my CEOs, it's like, it's crazy to see what you can do. And these recovery modalities, if added into a solid foundation, like everyone's like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? Well, if you're not breathing, cryo does nothing for you. So like, you're in this sympathetic state and then you're doing the cold plunge. You can't breathe. So then you're not breathing in the cold plunge in an extreme condition. Not the greatest. So like, you need to know where you are and how these recovery modalities impact your physiology. And if you're working with people, same thing. If someone just had a fight with their family, they didn't sleep all night, you're not going to be like, hey, sprints, go cold plunge. Like, they're already in chaos inside, whether perceived or actual. And you need to take away from that so their body can heal correctly so that you can keep them moving forward. Otherwise, you're just, burning the candle from both ends, and then you're going to see it in an injury. And that's money for people. That's relationships, that's function the rest of your life. So, you see people get depressed from these things, getting hurt, and it doesn't have to be like that. So bridging that gap is so important to me, of understanding recovery and not just having recovery on its own and fitness on its own, Those
are some of my favorite conversations that I get to have with you, because your knowledge and scope is way beyond what I have. And as a coach myself, I'm always looking at what is the best course of action for my clients. And so of other trainers that are watching this, and heck, it might be Mary Smith, who's just sitting at home, watching this for whatever reason, who's not a coach, but is looking to get healthier. What would be, and the answer might be everybody's different, but what would be some things for coaches to, all right, I got somebody that they're trying to do better with nutrition, they're trying to do better with sleep, and they're trying to do better with exercise. What would be some of the next things that we could get them involved in? Whether it's foam rolling, whether it's, I love your Instagram because it's a wealth of knowledge, whether it's,
so many things.
Right, saunas, it
Fun
could
facts.
be
Plants,
breathing.
filtering.
But like, what would be some of the next steps to kind of help them stand out from other coaches, from your LA fitness coach? What's going to make them different in the fact that they can understand, how to take or what's the next thing to add for their clients' protocol?
So this is one of the most important things ever, because I've been doing this for so long. I can tell you what someone's going to say before they say it. Like when I'm teaching someone a new skill, or when they don't know the coordination because it's so uncomfortable, and they're like, they have every excuse coming out. And I'm like, listen, just shut up. We're at the phase where you're going to hate me right now. It's uncomfortable. You don't know what's happening. Like they have to look at, like, turn around. Like, is my leg doing what you're asking? Because I don't even know what's happening. Because like we're changing your hardware. We're rewiring your brain to move differently and to fire differently neuronally. So it's important to recognize that the ego gets into the beginning phases of that. And there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of, I didn't do this enough. Everyone's like, I should have done the exercises. I've done exercises with people. If you do it that uncomfortable, focused way one time, and they're like, I never did it again. Like, I always follow up years. I've been doing this for so long. And I'm like, I am old now. So it's like, it's crazy to see that, I follow up and they're like, I never did it again, but it never came back. So all you need, if you didn't do it ever again, you don't need to do these exercises the rest of your life. Like, that's where people crutch themselves and they create their own block, because in their head they didn't do the exercises, so they can't feel better, and that creates that, and then they don't feel better because they didn't. Just do the exercises and breathe within them. Or if you do something, don't give someone so many things to do that they're gonna fail. They imagine people have families, kids, all this stuff. Like people are like, I didn't do my morning cardio 20 minutes a day. I was like, yeah, but you did it 3 times. They're like, yeah, I skipped 2 days though. I go, there's months when you didn't do it for months. I go, so stop shaming my friend and give yourself a win once in a while. So that psychology in the beginning, like understanding your wins and not always, like shaming yourself and putting yourself down, because then it becomes this impossible feat and you'll never get there. Especially like nutrition stuff. Oh my gosh, what are we going to learn? There's so much to learn. Then we're being poisoned. There's so much going on. Processed, GMO, bio, now they're engineering things. It's fake food. There's a lot. And you think someone that doesn't have this career cares or like understands any of that, let alone like they think they need that in order to lose weight. So they're already like shaming themselves and creating everything's this spectrum of vibration of like high vibration. You're not getting sick. You have a normal pH, or you're acid, you're acidic, you're low vibration, you're fear, shame. This is all from love and this is all from fear and shame. So just accept that you're a human being and give yourself the wins that don't, because you won't see them. If you wake up and you set your alarm and you get to read, a sentence a day, that's still more than you were doing before. So recognize that in the beginning. Just start small, little steps, one time, and make sure that they know that you're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel you didn't do it enough. Stop. If you do it one time, that's enough. Like, make sure to always start where people meet people where they are, because we're all human. Don't set them up for failure. They're not going to cold plunge 6 times. They have 6 kids. Their wife's making them go on dates. Like, there's 2. What are you doing? Like, you don't want to add to someone's inflammation, because arguments are inflammation. Your perceived understanding of, I failed, is inflammation. You're creating what hormones are released in your body. So you need to understand that. And, like if I eat a double stuffed Oreo, I'm eating it and moving on. Like, I'm not perfect either, but I'm not going to sit there and be like, I can't believe I ate that Oreo. I feel so fat. Like, no, who cares? Because you complaining and sitting there whining about it is going to help you gain more weight than just eating it and moving on. So pick your battles and recognize your wins, and also be on your side, your own side. When you do something, like, give yourself credit for it, because people will literally not see it at all. Like, this lady's like, yeah, I think I felt it the other day. I was like, you couldn't walk for a year and a half. You couldn't walk. Now you're like, I think that one time I was in my car, I felt it one day. And she's like, oh yeah, that's so true. So like, just know, like, psychologically, your brain's just trying to be comfortable all day long. It's just like, let me be comfortable. I don't want to recognize how I'm being biased here, because I just want to be comfortable. So if you look at that and understand that, like, really bring that to their attention, and it'll motivate them so much that they'll stay on board and they'll keep adding things on, and it gives them trust for themselves, and you just see them skyrocket, because once they have trust for themselves, they know they're capable, and it just keeps adding on, and you see lives change. It's amazing.
I like the voice of
full
inner
Valley girl.
Jenna. I love it.
Full Valley girl.
This
all I can
is
think
what I
of.
have to hear. And then the
It's
kids,
so great.
the kids are even worse. You have no idea. Oh,
So good.
it's so
good.
Yeah, that they don't have that in Lynchburg or Charlotte. I can verify that. But
but they're good teachers.
Yeah.
They're great teachers.
You talked a lot right there, and I've heard you, in some of the research that I've done, just preparing for this, and even before we came on, so much of what you're really talking about is the psychology, and we talk about that a lot here. And Corey, he has his safe, sweaty smiles, and I have, my first pillar is to keep people safe, and the psychology is just building the safety net to tell them it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Show yourself a little bit of grace. But that's really the foundation for everything. If you want to help people, if you want to get people to make gains and make improvements, you have to create that situation where you make them feel safe, you make them feel valued and have some self-worth. And then once you get to that point, once they buy in there, then you can do whatever you want. You can take them wherever you want, and they'll go with you, because you're the one person that makes them feel good all the time.
Yep. 100%. I couldn't have said it any better. That's my job, especially someone with an extreme injury. Imagine, I've had people where they were hurt when they were 13 years old, and now they're 55. And, they've been carrying a special chair around to every movie set. And like, their whole life is modified based on their injury that no one has been able to help them with. So I come in and they're like swords drawn. And so all I do is create a safe place. If, people are like, no, they didn't do that right. Yeah, they did. They did that right. So we're like, this is a different story. Like, we have to look at this differently. And I some guys are egotistical, and I bring in pink weights and I make them, or I demonstrate. And I've been doing this for so long, even when I don't work out a lot, I'm like a ninja, and they're like, how'd you do that? And they can't even do it. And I'm like, yeah, so listen to me. So like that's different than, something where someone actually went through a trauma and they did go see a lot of specialists, and they do have access to the best of the best, and they weren't given any type of help or relief. So, I see that, and I work with people that are like, I have no one else to talk to or nowhere else to go. And so, I've seen the extremes of both ends of injuries, and it's like, it's crazy to have to tap into that, but everything is creating a safe space. I use different music and frequency to turn on, especially like my people that have high anxiety. I start breathing differently. Kids, the kids are like whipping things across the room, slamming doors. The parents are like, they're fine. Just let them do it. They're okay. They like you. And I'm like, I don't do this. The kid lied straight to your face. And I was like, no, that's a lie. And they're like, you don't know. I was like, I was standing right here. That's a lie. I was like, you don't do that. I was like, you don't lie in front of me and tell me I'm lying. And like, right. I just like looked into the little girl's soul, and the mom's like, don't upset her. She likes you. And I was like, I don't care. I was like, you guys are all going down if I don't do this. I can't stand this. And so then she like cried, walked away, came back and was like, Mommy, can Dr. Jenna come to Nobu with us tonight? And I was like, and the mom, she walked back out, and the mom's like, what the and I'm like, see, like kids need boundaries. Like, it's another psychological aspect of trying to get your information across to someone. If you know all this stuff, but you can't get it through to people, and you can't help them see it themselves, because it's never about you, it's about them. And you want to make them safe enough. Then you get to the point where they're like, no, I need you. Like, if I go somewhere, they're like, what am I going to do? I'm like, you're fine. It's not me, it's you. Like, so I start planting seeds, and I'm like, don't ever look at me like that again. You're not going to be with me for a long time. There's always an end game. You're not. Right. This is not what I do. I don't go in circles where you need me for life. What am I doing? What kind of job am I doing? That's horrible. Like, it come to me for like a luxury, or because you did some triathlon or something, and you need some recovery. Don't come to me because, we're stuck in the same spot. I'll get you to where you're elite, and you'll look at other people. You'll get to the phase where you're like, aren't they doing that wrong with that trainer over there? And I'm like, yes, let's not say that. So it's great to see people go from debilitated and then safe and then independent to where I ask them, like, I'll have them answer. They're like, should I do this? I'm like, I don't know. Should you? And they're like, well, and then they tell me what they did. I'm like, oh, my little baby bird. Like, it just makes me so happy to see people become independent, because everything in the pharmaceutical industry world is you need this in order to be okay. Oh, you have this disease that was caused by probably poison in our food. Here's a pill. Oh, this pill causes this. Here's another pill. And you're never enough without these things. And you can't find help without these things. And there's still not help even with those things. So, it just makes you feel less in control of your life. And that's when your immune system starts to deteriorate and function goes down the drain. So understanding that spectrum is important to help people get to freedom.
And I think that spectrum in our own internalization of this is important too, because I'm the walking definition of C's get degrees. And we have this level of what is failure and what is passing, but there's different levels in between. And it's one of those where it's like, hey, that was a C that didn't have to be an A, or that was a B. We're making progress, not perfection. But a lot of times when we work with our clients, it's pass or fail. It's success or failure. And they don't see that spectrum in between. And that's really important for us to say, okay, you didn't lose those 5 pounds, but 3 is awesome.
And especially too, like, you probably have muscle. So like, you don't realize that, I could be 140. I usually stay around 140, and I could be obese. And then I could be 140 and people are like, are you starving yourself? I'm like, no, but thank you. I have muscle now. I was just stuck in cupcakes and, desserts for a while. I was in grad school doing overnighters or all-nighters. So, that it's just making them aware of that and doing, taking videos of people, taking pictures, that visualization in the beginning for them to rewire their thought process. Because like I'll fix an injury and then they're like, all right, see you later. And then they're like sloppily walk back out. As soon as they know the day is over with me, they literally, their nervous system's like, okay, go back to how you're comfortable. And I'm like, hey, stop. And I say like, I'm not giving you 75 exercises. Like it's a couple exercises. The exercise will get harder as you get stronger. Now you're breathing. Before you were holding your breath and everything was just clamping on itself and you weren't doing anything efficient at all. Now you're breathing in it. So now things are activating more and it's harder. So, it's not the one exercise. It's breathing within the exercise and just making things about quality and giving yourself those wins so that your thought process can now take it over. And, I tell people it's not the one exercise. Today, think of me pushing on your head and lift up a little bit or take a deep exhale. Like if they run, high wired, I'll be like, take a deep exhale, do some box breathing, just one of them today. Give them a goal that they can actually accomplish. And then that regulation of their breathing will help everything else you're doing with them while you're with them. And they don't even need to do the exercises by themselves because they'll progress so much just with that one cue. Instead of like, oh, I didn't do the exercises, I'm such a failure. And yeah, we're all failures. And with the system of school, I've always been an old soul. And I used to be like, so I wouldn't go to anyone that, some of these kids in my classes, I'm like, I wouldn't see you as a physical therapist. Like, it's scary, just because you get a degree, just because you get these grades, you could be good at taking the test, like there's no more written answers because they want everything to be regulated and easy to grade. And we've lost the meaning of a lot of things. And the complexity of understanding is everything's surface level, superficial. And it's like school is, I tell everyone, I hated school, but I got good at like taking the test because I saw what was happening, like it when in doubt, see, the bubbles, like just always make sure you fill in all the bubbles because at least you have a chance. There's things you can do and in the way of the wording of the question. So it's not about you, like, because everyone's like, oh, you're a physical therapist. There's no one like me out there at all, what I've learned in my experience. It's because I took it to where it was. To me, school right now is a joke. I'd be like, go do a trade. You can teach yourself anything. You can go mentor underneath someone, get skills. Like when we had DeWalt as our sponsor, I bought all these power tools. I started making pegboards. I couldn't do the pegboard. I'm like, all right, weakness, let's go. And so now I'm like a little ninja. So explore where you're uncomfortable because there's growth there. And it's important to recognize like you can get through anything. And then again, be resilient to where you have so much health insurance just being who you are. It's amazing.
Yeah. Two things that really popped into my head when you were talking about that, 115 years ago, Mark Twain said, don't let your schooling get in the way of your education. And you get the science in school or a base of the science. And then once you become a coach, once you get out, then you start to learn the art. You realize what's really important and what's not important. And you, especially if you are becoming a practitioner, a real practitioner, a real student of the game, you get to determine what's important and you get to determine what's not important. And then once you bring in the art of coaching and you start to understand that psychology and you can blend those things together, then you can do anything. And it's the people that really get both parts of it that go straight to the top. And when you talk about the psychology of it and talk about people that have been hurt and big pharma and things like that. So I've got a guy named Bob. Bob's 88 years old. Bob cold called me 4 years ago. Bob has a walker. He had avian flu in 1957, and he's had issues since then. And one day, it was November of 22, I'll never forget it. And he said, Trey, he said, I've been to doctors, I've been to physical therapists, I've been to trainers, I've been everywhere, you name it. He said, you're the first person not to tell me you can't. Everybody is so quick to dismiss because they don't want to deal with that stuff. They don't know how to deal with it. And they just say, somebody else deal with it. You go somewhere else and let me live on the gravy train, and I don't care what you do. And even in the actual coaching, when people come in, and it's all building that safety net. You say, hey, you showed up, you're here, everything else is on me. You're going to do the work, but keeping you safe, that's my responsibility. Making sure you have a good time with it, that's my responsibility. Making sure you feel better walking out the door than you did walking in, that's my responsibility. So let me carry that burden, and then all you have to do is do what I tell you to do, and then we're all going to have a good day.
It's so true. And just understanding that that's so rare, like there's always that, person behind the curtain thing of like, what can I do? That's it. Like, just like with the physicians and the physical therapists, and they're not listening. In school, we learned that a doctor interrupts within the first 30 seconds of someone talking. So like, just remember the motivation behind what you're doing and who you are. Because if you truly care about someone, you're going to go to those lengths. And so that's what I did my whole life was, I don't know that. And I won't speak to it unless I know. So then I'm like, let me go look it up. And now I've done it for so long. And like anyone talks to me and I'm like, da-da-da-da-da. And they're like, how do you know all this? Like everyone's like, whatever you say, I'll do. Like, it's so funny. People are like, if you told me you needed to punch me in the face, I'd let you do it. And I'm like, how many people tell me that? It's like, it's so funny. So I created so much safety. We're all now psychopaths, apparently. So it's hilarious, but there's a trust, and because they know I care and I would not do it unless it was in their best interest. I don't put my ego in front of things. If I don't know something, I'll say it and I'll go look it up. And I call people that are specialists in those areas. Imagine cumulatively years of that. It's just so much fun to be able to have, and I have access now to the best of the best and these people's stories, and I call them their fun facts. It's like, it's unbelievable, but you need to recognize that that's so rare. And that's one thing I teach to coaches is like, that's shoved off in the commercial, corporation world. Love and caring about people is a motivation, but that's the number one thing. So you don't need anything. I'm 100% word of mouth. I have been always. And like, I have my phone on silent always because I can't stand it. It's like, there's never a shortage. So, and how does that happen? It's like, you care about people. So having love is the number one thing. People will come, if your paperwork is at the, forefront of your business, like, I got to get this person out of here so I can do the paperwork. How is that like the person? Like you just dismiss that and they feel that. And that's part of how they show up, how you show up. And it's important to remember how important it is to care about people, because it's not just woo woo, it's everything. People can feel that, and your energy gives them motivation, and you can help people out of dark places, no matter where they are in their life, or, you don't even have to know about their problems, and you can help them and not even know it. So it's just important to remember that. Never let the system take over the foundation of what you do and who you are. And coaches have so much control. I tell everyone that when I speak with Perform Better, I'm like, every time I go, you guys don't understand. These doctors are crutching people. Not everyone. Obviously, I'm speaking as, just generalities. But for the most part, I go off objective data. This is what I see. And, there's a lot of, I've fallen into the system. Like you said, I don't want to look things up. I stay in my comfort zone and I just tell you, don't do that. It hurts. Don't do that. But the person is depressed now because they can't do what they love. And you tell them at like 30 years that they can't do what they love the rest of their life. Like, how can you do that to someone? Let's do that safely until you become so efficient at it. It's no longer an issue in your life. And the person's entire mindset changes. The relationships change. Like, I literally see couples get healthier, happier. It's just, it's so important. And the system, again, doesn't want you to know that, because it's never about that. It's always about consuming for the system. But we have so much control over people's health. The doctors don't touch what personal trainers do, and coaches and physical therapists and chiro, everything. And again, just like doctors, not everyone's great. There's a lot of people, physical therapists, where they're like, oh, you do physical therapy? I'm like, not that type. Like, I care about people to where we're not fixing things until insurance says, hey, sorry, we don't want to pay anymore. Like, oh, see you later. Like, how messed up of a system is that? Right. If you think about that big picture, how crazy is that? You know what? I know you still have pain, but you can walk 10 feet. So we got to get you going. We'll see you next time.
Good enough.
It's crazy. So that's it. You dismiss that person and let them just carry on. Like, I'm not about that. Or people that are crutched, wear this brace and you'll be fine. And then they've been wearing a brace for so many years, they atrophy and now they can't do what they love. Like, let's not just dismiss people anymore. Like, let's have people as important, because people are. And yeah, taking accountability for how you act is also up there.
You mentioned speaking on at Perform Better. You're speaking this year at Long Beach, is that correct?
Yes.
So one of the things, and I've been going to Perform Better forever, love the company, the organization, and it's interesting to see, and I'll date myself, mainly because nobody else will, but I've been doing it. I've been in fitness for 20 28 years. And when I started, the only women in fitness were aerobics instructors. And then the trainers were men. And so, and now you're seeing more of it. But even when you go to the Perform Better, and I give it to Chris and Rob and Aaron and their whole team, they're trying to get more female presenters. And because we're trying to get more females in the industry as coaches, as leaders, as mentors, as managers and owners, and all, bringing them up into a more prominent role in this industry, because NASCAR is very male dominated. Fitness is still 50 years later, 60 years, still very male dominated. So what advice can you give as somebody who broke into a very male dominated industry in NASCAR, now doing fitness and presenting at a conference where 20-30% of the presenters are female, the rest are all men? What advice can you give to the female coaches or people that want to become coaches? How can they inject into this male-dominated industry?
So I think everything's a challenge in life, and it's a challenge that you can either let, make you stop and turn around, or you can push through. So, as a female, I grew up with all brothers. So I'm 100% Greek. I have brothers. I grew up hunting, fishing. I was never lacking. So coming into this industry, and they're like, "Oh, honey," and I'm like, "Oh, honey." Like, I don't know what you're saying. And so it's also a thing of, it's basically just don't be intimidated, just master your craft. Because I started to notice that people didn't want to listen to me because they thought, you don't know because you've never done, the different positions in NASCAR. You've never lifted this. I lift more than that. So the first day of strength and conditioning, because I also did the programming for the strength and conditioning, I went from a lot of not injuries, but I was out of shape to extreme athlete and I was like, okay, since I'm better here, let me try this. I did marathons, Tough Mudders, CrossFit, bodybuilding, whatever. I did it. Jiu-jitsu, put your body in those situations to see and come out of it. So I remember it was actually the person that he's a smart mouth that I think he's married to the team owner's daughter that you were talking about. Woodward Brothers, is that what you said?
Yeah, Wood Brothers. Yeah, Wood Brothers.
Wood Brothers, yeah. So,
Yep.
The blonde daughter?
I do know her.
Yeah, her husband, a little smart mouth, but my first day on the job, I remember, I was like, this is what you're going to do for the lifts, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, why should I do it? Why don't you do it? I was like, moment of truth. You have to hold your ground. You have to know your capabilities so that you can stand up. And I was like, first of all, I don't lift weight, so let me go get a real weight and then I'll show you. And I did it, and I lifted 3 times, because people that don't work on coordination or explosive movement, they don't move weight. They're going slow, they never have power. I'm 100% Greek freaking stallion, but female stallion. But it's unbelievable how strong I've gotten. It's crazy. So I did it, and they're like, all right, we'll do whatever you say. And it's not that, and it's a sad world where you shouldn't have to look the part, but you should at least have experience in it, to where if you can't do it at the time, you need to know those areas and those ins and outs of being a coach and what your person's gone through. Even with injuries, I went and saw surgeries. They're like, oh, my knee's sore. I was like, you have no idea what they were doing to you under there. Sawing your, femur off, clinking like they're building houses. I'm like, your knee was on my shoulder at one point, part of it. So it just gives you a different perspective and understanding so that you can hold your ground, because it's, it doesn't matter. I'm put up with the best of the best. Oh, your agent, this, that, top celebrity families in the world. I don't give a shit. I'm sorry. I've earned that right. I was a yes man trying to people please. Oh no, I don't want to say too much. I'm a girl. No, screw that. I watch people go in circles. Well, you didn't listen to what I said. Now we're here again. I'm done. So now I'm just very confident in what I say, how I say it. Instead of saying things with emotion, you say things with meaning, fewer words, especially with guys. My brothers, I start talking too many words, their eyes gloss over and they're looking over there, something shiny. And I'm like, it's so you have to reel everyone in. Again, meet people where they are and understand your craft enough to where you can use it and teach with it in any environment. So I don't look at being a girl as a negative or a less, but there's definitely obstacles within. And I've learned how to navigate all those obstacles. Jiu-jitsu has been helpful, especially in Hollywood. I'm like, oh no, I'm really good at my job. I don't need to do that. to be where I am. And they're like, who do you think you are? But I've had people like grab my wrist and I'm like, wrist lock, wrist escape. And so it's just understand your craft, learn yourself enough to where you know your limits. You know, I'm not strong by myself, but I carry this little baton thing where like you throw it out and it's weighted and it comes out and it's a police baton. You're not touching me. Just know that. So I know my limitations and I try to support myself when I know I can't handle things, or you know what I mean? And just, yeah, keep going and learn yourself enough to where you're confident no matter what. So it's again,
I think that's it. Confidence really, and knowing your craft breeds confidence.
Yes.
But I'll talk to females that want to maybe present at Perform Better or become that head coach or fitness manager, something like that. I always say, if not you, then who?
Right. And put the time in. That's where the confidence is going to come from too. Like, you know how much I did? You know how many things I did for free just to like learn? Yes. I'm so ridiculous with, all right, let me just go do this. Oh, a patient is an anesthesiologist. Hey, let's trade. Let me go see a surgery. You know how many surgeries I've seen and like all this cool stuff that you don't think it's all related. It is, you know, it's all related. So your experiences shape who you are. And, you know, instead of talking about it, literally be about it. If you want to do something, I shadowed people. I would go ask, it didn't matter. I'm like, this person's not saying no. Like, I just wanted to help. And I always came from a loving place. So the people were like, all right, come on board. You know, I'm like, let's go. So you never know what you're going to learn, where you're going to end up with all of that. So just explore and see what calls to you and what truly makes you passionate, because you know, we're not meant to just work 9 to 5 and then die. It's like, you know, this is all a system that we're viewing, but that's not what humans are supposed to go through. So find what truly brings you joy and go to that, because doing that kind of stuff, it's not working. You're doing what you love, and it'll be easy to keep going and keep learning different things and keep doing things for free or shadowing or whatever you need to do to be better at your craft, because it's something you love. So that's where like the light is, and you can help others help themselves, no matter what it is.
Well, 2 things, and I'm going to shrink the world down. That girl, the blonde, she and the girl I dated in high school played softball together. So I was around her all the time. Yep.
So
25 years ago. And,
I still follow them. I love them. You know, Hicks is like my little son, my little mischievous son. I'm like, stop doing that. Don't do that. Stop. You know, and why should I do that? So they're like little kids always asking things. And so I would always research everything and make sure I never didn't have the answer.
Yeah.
NASCAR was great. So great. What a small world.
Yeah. Yep. And the second thing, and you know, we talk about everything coming from a place of love. I had a lady that started with me. Her name's Estella, and she's from Uruguay. And she's coming out. I don't know anything. There's a culture issue. And she came in one day, and I said, look, all this is just stuff. And she said, what is this? And I said, this is all stuff. I said, but look, everything here is based on love and trust and family. And we get that. Everything else will take care of itself. And that was January of 2019. Stella's still with me. And to bring it full circle, so this past Tuesday, I've got a girl who, again, talking about the working at that hotel where the coach stays in town. She started with me as a new girl, and she started with me, and she's 23 years old, so young kid. And we had 11 people in the gym at 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. And Estella was there, and all the people that really come together, that 6 a.m. group, they're super close. And I don't have to do much of anything. They know what they're doing. I program it all. They take care of everything. They take care of each other. And I told the girl, she had just started. I said, look, this is the vibe I was telling you about. This is the community. This is the environment. And she said, you know, I'm so used to coming into a gym, putting her headphones on, and just being blinders on. She said, I love it. This is crazy. But it all boils down to very basic human things. Transitioning that to your podcast is enhancing the human. It's not fixing the body. That's a part of it, but it's so much more than that. And the foundation is always those basic human connections and those basic human desires that we all have. We all want to be loved. We all want to feel like we belong. We all want to feel a part of something. And when you're really a coach, you develop those things with people so that you can get away with, you know, saying things that you might not say to a client that you don't know, or you know, sharing the Valley Girl voice with them and telling their kid to go and do something else, or you know, whatever. But it's all the heart of the coaching that allows you to do those things. And you're killing it out there, and I appreciate that.
Appreciate you. I tell everyone, pray for me when you can, because it's a crazy world out here, and I feel like literally attacked sometimes. It's funny because, like, again, this whole world is made for you to think that you're less than and you can't do on your own. And even I don't care about celebrity as celebrity. Like, who are you? What are you doing in the world? Like, we've made celebrities. Like, you memorize a couple lines, it's all song and dance. Like, you don't even know if they're really good. Like, I saw a lot of the people in the movies were picked. The one producer was sleeping with the main girl. Like, that's how they got the job. What the hell's going on? So, as far as person behind the curtain, like, just know that a lot of the things that you perceive from what you look at are there for a reason. They want you to feel like that, so you always are yearning for more. But where everything is and where the pudding is with those relationships, with that caring. Like, doesn't matter who's looking, not looking, like, that energy eats away at you. Integrity is everything. So you just bring it back to that foundational, that spectrum of love and hate and high vibration, low vibration. Like, this is where health is. So it's so important to understand how important that is, because you get a lot of hate when you are a loving person from people that haven't explored themselves. They don't know. You're bothering them because you're making them look at their accountability, and they don't want to. So people attack me for no reason. I'm like, all right, buddy, I don't have time for this. Like, it's not, that's a you problem. So, like, I can see what people are doing before they even know what's going on. So just understanding that too, like, always grounding yourself in knowing that coming from that kind of place is enough. You don't need validation outside. You don't need any of that, because that is enough, and it should be enough. And for people that truly care about you, it will be enough. So, let people learn their lessons when they can, and when it's their time. Never force things down people's throats, but you never let someone compromise where you are and what you feel and what you stand for, no matter what.
Well, I'd say I don't think you can sum it up any better than that. So I think that's about as tight a bow as we can put on it. And I'd say, if as far as Hollywood, they say that's a wrap.
I appreciate you guys so much, and just hearing what you're doing too. It's beautiful, because that's what keeps me going, is knowing there's coaches out there that care about others and want them to do better. It's so important. Not letting your insecurities get in the way of bettering others.
Well, it's fun to do this, and it's so fulfilling to have people like you, and to learn, and to be able to share the ideas, and to be able to build the connections. And that's really all this is just our way of building stronger connections, building a better community, and be the rising tide that raises all ships, and to make everybody in this industry better, to make it a better place than we found it. And that's the heart of it. That's the long and the short. That's the mission. And having you, we didn't know each other before we came on. Now we've built a friendship, and who knows, when we see each other next time, we're going to be doing our Valley Girl voices. You just have these little silly things, but those are the things that really make the connections go. I'm lucky to be able to do it, and I'm fortunate, and I'm thankful to have Corey by my side to do it. And because he's far better at this than I am, and he's far smarter than I am, and I get to just ask him questions all the time. So
but it's great, because you guys are really helping people look at the psychology of things, and step away from what you're shown. Because I had someone and Mel Gibson was talking about this. Mel's one of my good friends. Like, it's so random how things happen. And he was talking about, like, we there's a lot of things that are happening, and we're introducing people to different medications, and they'll have stage 4 cancer, that's bone cancer, where in the medical field, it's known to, we talked about this on Rogan, where it's known you're dead. Like, you have bone cancer, that's it. Go pack your bags. So it's stage 4, and it was a young actor that had it, and he took some of these medications. It's gone in 4 months. So imagine if what we were shown is not just like solid, hard truth. Let's question things. Let's look a different way. Let's, again, without being malicious, we're not being hurtful in any way, but let's look at things with an open mind, so we can kind of explore what is in front of us, instead of just believing and then biasing everything we see based on that. So, just keeping everything from a good place. You guys make people feel comfortable enough to share. It's a beautiful thing, because then you can have those conversations, and you can really see things grow. But imagine, like, where's the FDA and all that on that stuff? 4 months, stage 4 cancer gone?
That doesn't exist. They're not going to acknowledge that.
Weird. And just even the research too, recognizing that the research is bought and paid sometimes. Again, it's a business. They support products that, people have investments in. It's crazy looking into all of this stuff. I'm like, wow, they have a percentage in that company, or they have a percentage in that company, yet they're working with this company. I'm like, wow, like this is kind of corrupt. Pay your taxes though. But it's like, just kind of looking at things like, not everyone at the top wants the best for everyone at the bottom. So let's all always have integrity and have accountability and keep people to a standard that, keeps the human healthy. Because, you can rot in any environment just by taking the easy path, and anyone can do it. It's just like an addiction. So, you can fall into that. So always keeping yourself on, a high integrity path, and all of us spreading love and just being non-threatening to where you don't challenge people's egos. You help people open up and help themselves. So I appreciate it so much. It's good. It feels good to find people that care about others.
Oh, absolutely. This has been fun. A lot of fun. Probably the most fun I've had. I think I've laughed this whole time at all this silliness. I had no expectations of that. So I
and no
appreciate
preparation, no nothing. But that's what's so great is like, you
it's
see
real.
people. It is. And you see people perform at their best. You see someone shy, or some people tell me, oh, you're shy. I'm like, no, I just don't like you. Like, I can feel you being mean, and you're just not, I don't engage with that. Like, you know what I mean? So instead of like making people feel like that, let's harness how you make people feel comfortable and safe. And then you see them grow, and who knows what we could do, I love it. We got to definitely do it again sometime. We'll have you on the Enhancing the Human podcast soon.
Anytime. All you have to do is say the word. So shout out to the Lynchburg Hornets and the Avery Cougars, South Central Virginia's small colleges representing big time here. We thank you for joining us on the Coaches Unscripted Podcast. We hope today's stories have inspired and empowered you in your coaching journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with fellow coaches. Connect with us on Instagram at the Coaches Unscripted Podcast to continue the conversation and stay updated on future episodes. We thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Jena Gatses. Our favorite Valley girl was far beyond anything I could have ever imagined. So check her out on the Enhancing the Human podcast. Until next time, Dr. Jena Gatses, Corey Smallwood, I'm Trey Belcher. Keep coaching from the heart and building strong communities.